Are you hungry?
Give me something good.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Görgött. Today we're going back to my Swedish roots and we're making something called Kroppkakor. It's basically a Swedish potato dumpling. It's relatively easy. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. This is my way. Some use part raw, part cooked potatoes. But I'm just using boiled potatoes. But before we have a look at what we have on the board here, do me the favor as always, click that subscribe button and check the bell icon so that you can get notifications when new content comes online. But now let's have a look at the board. So as you can see here, basically the main part of this dish are the potatoes. We have some onions as well. The onions we're going to fry up together with some pork belly. Now you find a lot of different recipes in Sweden for this. I love to make it with pork belly. You can also use kind of smoked bacon, you can use ham. It's normally pork. We have some butter because we're going to serve it with some brown butter. And here we have Lingonberries. It's a very Swedish thing to go with like the Swedish meatballs, but it goes with a lot of other things in Sweden too that we eat. And 2 eggs. We're also going to need some flour for the kind of potato dough that we're making, for the lack of a better word of it. So it's going to be potatoes, eggs, and flour. The chives are just for decoration. I'm going to chop them finely and then we'll sprinkle it over when we're done. But let's start with what takes the longest, and that's the potatoes. So I'll peel them and put them on the stove. Cut them into smaller pieces. You just need to boil them. And you want floury potatoes, the ones you use for mash, because it's important. But I'll do that, and when you see us in about a second or two, we'll get going with the pork belly to kind of chop that as well as the onion. So see you in a second. So we have a beautiful piece of pork belly here. The skin is still on, so we'll take that off first. And this piece is actually too big for today, so we'll split it in half as well. Now I love this piece, but it just doesn't go with the dish we're making. There's nothing better than crispy pork belly. But today we cut it away. So, and now we'll probably need half of this. And this is 500 grams, so 250 grams for the portion we're making today. So I'll put the rest back into the fridge. Look at that beautiful pork belly. Now we have some cartilage in here. We'll cut that out as well. So let me first get this in the fridge and then we'll continue. Now let's get this 2 pieces here out. You can normally feel them and normally kind of go at an angle. That's the first one. You can grab them quite well. Now, sometimes when you make pork belly, these don't really matter because they'll soften up. But for what we're making today, they matter, so get rid of them. And what I forgot to maybe tell you is that, you see the pot? That's the potatoes. It's just salted water and we'll boil them until they're soft so we can mash them up nicely. Now here I'll just show you and then I'll continue by myself because it's going to get a bit boring. But we won't cut them in kind of relatively small cubes. That was the dog wanting food, but she will have to wait. So, this size. We'll cut up the rest and then we'll do the onion. And the onions that go together with the pork belly, we're just going to chop it up finely. If you cook a lot, you probably know the trick. Leave that part on like that the onion keeps together while you're chopping it. And we want it quite fine. So, perfect. 2 onions, and then the potato should be done, and we can make the potato mix. Our potatoes are boiled. Now we just press them. Now if you have one of those presses, that works perfect as well. Now I like these a bit rustical, so it doesn't have to be too fine. Now if you want them really fine, you can always pass them through a sieve at this stage, but I'm happy with this. Now it's time to mix in the 2 eggs. You see I've beaten them a bit with a fork. Bit of white pepper, a couple of turns, and check for salt. I'll use my finger. I mean, we had the water salted, right? We'll add a little bit, a good pinch. Perfect. Now for flour, you kind of just have to feel. You want it so that you can form the dumplings. I would say it's probably 2 to 3 deciliters. Until we reach a consistency that we can work with. We're getting close. I would say for this 1 kilo of potatoes, it was about 3.5 deciliters even of flour. Now we do a test. We wet our hands. And we just see if we can work with it. Yeah, that's doable. So this is done. We'll leave it to the side and we fry up the filling. So the pork belly, the onions. I'm going to put in some 5 spice. That goes great with this. The pan is hot. We put in our pork belly. When you do pork belly, you normally don't need fat in the pan because there's enough fat in the pork belly. And our onions. I'll just stir this around. And we're using quite high heat. Now you can see we made some fresh allspice. And I know it's not classical, but I like to add a little bit of soya to it too. This is perfect. It needs to be really kind of a punch in your face because the dumpling itself doesn't have a lot of taste. So we're done with this. Now it's time to make a dumpling. Now I've done one. It's a bit of a mess, but I'll show you how we do one. So first wet your hands. Then take a good piece, something like that. Form it into a little bit of a ball. Try to make a little well in the middle. Then a good, now it's where it gets a bit complicated. You try to press that in at the same time as you hopefully try to close it. And this one is not ideal, but you can see it sticks together. Need a bit more water. No. And there we go. We'll do all of them and then we'll boil them in the water. It's time to put these babies in the water. We're gonna need water on our hands again. The water behind me is boiling. And next to it is the butter, which is browning it a bit for the sauce. So let's wet our hands, let's get these in the water. Now, it's not the easiest, but you just have to try to be relatively quick. And then they go in. And they stay in there until they come to the surface. Then you let it just simmer for 5 minutes. And then we take them out and we're going to fry them afterwards. Our kroppkaka are done in the water. I put a frying pan on there with some butter in it. And we're just going to get a little bit of brown color. And then we're ready to plate it. Finally, the butter is hot. Let's fry them up. I just want to give it a little bit of color, and then we're basically ready to plate up and dig in. These are ready now. I'll take one of them. The others are for the family. We have our butter. It's like more of a, I don't know how to explain it. It's not so brown, it's more caramelized. You do it kind of on a lower heat, but longer. You just need to make sure that you get the top part. Nice. Really healthy. Butter makes the heart stronger. And not to forget our Rårörda Lingon. It's not a jam as such, it has a little bit less sugar than a jam. It's more acidic. And this goes great with the Kroppkaka. And last but not least, some of our chives. Perfect. A Swedish Kroppkaka my way. Been looking forward to this. Very nice. Let's get some with a nice filling. Get some Lingonsylt on there. And in it goes. It's nice and salty. You really have to make that filling really powerful. Because the dumpling itself doesn't have a lot of taste, so make it as powerful as you can. Almost to the point that it's over-salted. But this is perfect. And the sweet and sourness of the Lingonberry. The caramel taste of the butter. Really simple, really easy food, but so delicious. It might not look the most beautiful. It's a bit messy to make, but you won't regret it, I promise you. Now, if you stuck with me this far, as always, I'm a bit later than usual, but please give me the thumbs up, like this video. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Swedish Husmanskost, classical Swedish food. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and the checkbox. And see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.